Quick question, and be honest with yourself when you answer it. When Elon Musk stands on a stage and promises every single American a universal high income once AI takes their jobs, do you believe him? Because most people watching that clip feel something warm, something hopeful, something that sounds like the future finally arriving. However, the man promising you that Future fired 80% of Twitter's workforce in under a week, withheld their bonuses, and then threatened to sue some of them for getting accidentally overpaid on their way out the door. And that is the man telling you he wants the government to hand out free money to everyone on Earth. You see, Musk's pitch is beautifully simple, and that is exactly why it works. The argument goes that AI will soon produce so much wealth, so much output, so much raw economic surplus, that governments will simply hand every citizen a monthly check large enough to live comfortably on forever. He calls it universal high income, not universal basic income, because basic sounds like survival and high sounds like abundance. But when you actually diagram what Musk is describing, the promise reveals itself as a chain of 4 separate events that all have to happen in order. AI has to create the surplus. The AI companies have to donate most of that surplus to governments. Governments have to distribute it equally to every citizen. And the citizens have to somehow remain independent of the companies now feeding them. And every single link in that chain requires the most powerful entity in the chain to voluntarily give up its power, which, in the entire history of capitalism, is something that has essentially never happened. So before we accept the promise, it's time to look at the person making it. Because there are 5 things you need to understand about how Musk and the system around him actually operate. And taken together, they tell you exactly what universal high income would look like if he ever got to design it. The truth is, the abundance story is not a welfare plan at all. It's a takeover plan. And the 5th thing, the one that makes it undeniable, is hiding in plain sight. We will get to that. The first thing you need to know is what Musk does with money he already controls, because that is the cleanest predictor of what he will do with money he doesn't control yet. When Musk took over Twitter, he fired roughly 80% of the staff within days, cancelled their promised bonuses, and then, in a move so brutal it made international headlines, threatened to sue some of the laid-off employees because Twitter's own payroll system had accidentally overpaid them on the way out. The severance lawsuits from that one company alone have cost $681 million. At Tesla, he suspended equity grants for employees during a quarter in which the company posted record profits. At XAI, the company he founded to build artificial general intelligence, 500 people were fired on a single Friday night, with effectively no notice. This is the person proposing that the government issue universal high income to every American displaced by AI. Watch what a person does with the money they already control. That is the answer to what they will do with money they don't control yet. But the money is only the first tell. The second one is who he gives it to. In 2024 alone, Musk spent $288 million exclusively on Republican candidates and Republican causes. Not most of it, all of it. 0 to Democrats, 0 to independents. The man proposing a universal program is not, by any measurable standard, a universal figure. 85% of Democrats view him unfavorably. 73% of Republicans view him favorably. He is not a universal figure, but a partisan one. And this matters because a universal high-income program only works if every citizen is treated the same, regardless of how they voted, which is something Musk has never done with a single dollar he controls. However, Musk has already demonstrated what he does when given a universal platform. A Nature study confirmed that X's algorithm under his ownership shifts users toward more conservative political views, and that the effect does not fully reverse even after they stop using the app. Harvard found that far-right accounts received a 70% increase in retweets after his takeover. Low-credibility, right-leaning climate content was amplified 24 times more than equivalent left-leaning content. And then there is Doge, the department Musk personally designed and ran. Under his direction, it cut $230 billion from food assistance affecting 42 million people, pushed 5.2 million Americans off Medicaid, and eliminated $350 million in grants to minority-serving universities. Programs for historically black colleges, Hispanic-serving institutions, and Native American institutions all cut. His own words make the pattern impossible to miss. DEI must die. The woke mind virus will destroy civilization. He endorsed Germany's AfD party 2 days before Holocaust Remembrance Day. He said civil war in the UK was inevitable. He called for America to, and this is a direct quote, liberate Britain from its own government. And at Tesla's own factories, multiple federal and state lawsuits have documented racial slurs, nooses, and swastikas on the production floor. A jury initially awarded $137 million to a single black employee. The EEOC case is still in federal court right now, so when Musk tells you the government will one day distribute money equally to every citizen, ask yourself one question. Has he ever, even once, distributed anything equally? Because the answer, on the record, in his donations, in his algorithm, in his firings, in his own tweets, is no. But Musk is only one man. The real problem is the institution he's asking you to trust to hand out the checks, the United States government itself. But before you think this only affects Americans, think again. Because the third thing you need to understand is the government that Musk wants to issue these universal high-income checks. And that government, through the mouth of its own president, has already told you what it thinks of funding basic welfare. Those are his exact words, the President of the United States, speaking about the same government that Musk helped build, fund at $288 million, and staff through Doge, publicly stated that the federal government cannot fund basic healthcare because war takes priority. In the same budget, that same administration found $1.5 trillion for the military and cut $230 billion from food assistance. The question is not whether high income is possible. The question is whether it was ever intended. A government that chooses war over medicine does not suddenly choose abundance over poverty. It chooses what it has always chosen. And it has already told you what that is. And this is where the promise falls apart completely. Because remember, back at the beginning of this video, I said, universal high income requires the most powerful entity in the chain to voluntarily give up its power at every single step. Now watch what actually happens if AI companies become the funding source for government welfare. If the checks every American lives on come from a handful of AI companies, those companies don't just support the government, they become the government. Not through election, not through violence, through dependency. The moment your rent, your food, and your healthcare all come from a pipeline controlled by 3 or 4 corporations, those corporations set the rules of your life, and the government becomes the delivery mechanism. The abundance narrative sounds benevolent on the surface, but trace the dependency chain, and it describes a corporate takeover of state power with zero accountability to voters. You don't get to vote out the company writing your check, you just get to hope it keeps writing them. But here is where you get the most honest answer to the entire question, and it has nothing to do with anything Musk has ever said on a podcast. Remember I said there were 5 things you needed to understand, and the 5th one was hiding in plain sight? This is it. The ruling class's actual policy on AI displacement is not in their tweets and not in their promises. It is in the decisions they are making right now, while you read the news each morning. The Economic Policy Institute found that exactly 0 major federal worker protection bills have passed since 2009. Not one. In 15 years. The exact same 15 years that AI went from a research curiosity to full commercial deployment, replacing real human jobs at scale. And the genius of it is that nobody had to conspire. They just had to do nothing. The split screen tells you everything. A CEO at a podium celebrating record revenue growth. A laid-off worker packing a desk. Same week, same company. The people with every opportunity, every lobbying resource, every legislative connection to protect workers right now are choosing not to. That is not evidence of what they intend to do later. That is the answer. But wait. Remember I said the universal high income pitch requires 4 things to happen in sequence. The surplus, the donation, the distribution, the independence. Now look at what we've actually seen. Musk already proves he won't distribute fairly with money he owns. The government he helped build already proves it won't choose welfare over war. The companies he represents already prove they won't protect workers when they have the chance. And the dependency chain already proves that once the checks come from AI companies, those companies become the state. Which means the most disturbing thing about universal high income is not that it's a lie. It's that it was never a welfare plan in the first place. It was the cover story for a system in which a handful of corporations replace the state entirely and call it generosity. To be fair, some of the people advocating for UBI genuinely believe in it. But the richest man on earth, who has done none of the things a person who believes in fairness would do, is not one of them. So the next time you hear Elon Musk promise that AI will make everyone rich, don't ask what he says he will do. Watch what the class he belongs to is doing right now, while they still could do something else. Because the layoffs are the policy, the donations are the policy, the algorithm is the policy, the budget is the policy, and none of them point toward abundance for you. And that, if you step back for a second, is actually a wild ride to witness. Because the richest man on earth has built something so vast, so interconnected, and so powerful that even his lies sound like gifts. The empire is real, the abundance is not. Anyway, all that's left for me to say now is, thank you for watching this video to the end. You are a legend, and I'll see you in the next video.